Hi there. Well, yes, thanks for coming over. It's nice that we're all together right now, even though I'm the one that has to do all the talking. We can't have a conversation. Well, at least not in the sort of real time definition of a conversation. You can certainly leave comments if you want on any of my videos that I post in the Gary Moves project, which is primarily an instructional video project with a little bit of entertainment thrown in as well. And the reason I decided to do this was because I think that this is something that I have special talents and experience and ability with, figure skating in particular. Although what I've learned in figure skating and as a figure skater going through life, as a dedicated competitive figure skater, well, I like to call myself a competitive figure skater. And at times I have been an extreme competitive figure skater, directing all of my focus as much as possible in every decision I make throughout my life, throughout the days and weeks and hours and seconds, as to how I can skate the best possible. That is a truly competitive athlete, somebody that just enters into competitions. Yeah, you're still a competitive athlete, but it's not really the same. And so I've been kind of like pretty disciplined about skating every day I possibly can for more than half a century. And I do have a background in physics and philosophy. I have a Bachelor of Science degree actually from the University of Toronto, which I think is quite actually relevant. And at the time I didn't take these subjects because I even thought they were necessarily going to help my figure skating, at least not consciously, but they do quite help my figure skating, both physics and philosophy. And what's your philosophy? Well, the everyday way that we might use this word, what's your philosophy? It's kind of like, what's your opinion? It's kind of how we use it, but the study of philosophy is almost just the very opposite. In philosophy, we're not interested in your opinion. We're not interested in anybody's opinion. We're just trying to figure out what the truth is, what's really going on, and when you take philosophy, when you take logic courses in a university curriculum, you get credit in your science as a science, and should be that way. At least that's when I went to school. And because logic, the study of logic, the study of reasoning, rationality, logic, thinking, discerning cause and effect, having a good sense of memory, and that kind of goes beyond philosophy. But philosophy is one of the branches of philosophy is epistemology. And you can get through your life quite comfortably without knowing what the definition or what epistemology is. But if maybe you're sort of like quite ambitious, maybe you do want to have a little bit of an understanding of what epistemology is. I think, therefore I am. Think. That's all that Descartes knew. That's the only knowledge that he, or actually anybody, has in his opinion, and I get it, I think, therefore I am. Well, what is my connection to the real world out there, and what can I know Well, I could be deceived. If I'm dreaming, I'm being deceived. I'm thinking that something's going on that's actually not, and it could be, right now I even could be in some type of dream. So, but I'm having sensations and I'm doubting things and I'm thinking and I'm feeling, and I must exist. Beyond that, there's nothing really I can know. And Descartes recognized that, and he expressed it so eloquently in his cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Well, how can we take that? That's kind of a little bit airy-fairy. So how can we use philosophy in a more practical way? Well, we can be deceived in going through our lives in various different ways. I remember in junior high school, I think it was even a geography teacher or something, taught us, this was before I studied philosophy, taught us the fallacies of argumentation. And off the top of my head, some of them are overgeneralizing, argumentum ad hominem, attacking a person instead of addressing their argument, bandwagon appeal, well, everybody does this, so you should too, saying something with a lot of emotion or passion or loudly, or or repeating many times over are ways of persuading other people without necessarily having a proper argumentation. And there were others. There's other fallacies of argumentation, and we hear people say things, sometimes authorities such as coaches or people we view as experts in a certain field, and we hear them say things and we soak it all up, and we sometimes have this tendency to think that because they're an authority or an expert in the field, they know everything. Well, I'm quite an expert in the field of figure skating, and I'm going to look you straight in the eye and tell you I don't know everything. In fact, I don't know anything except that I exist. I know some things almost with 100% certainty. Like in a practical everyday sense, there's almost 100% certainty that I know that there's a cherry blossom tree that I can see right there outside my window. So, but there is some minute chance that I'm being deceived in some way, that life is really just some video game or something, simulation, or no, but that's almost 100% certain that is a cherry blossom tree, and I remember the cherry blossoms from a few months ago blooming beautifully. So I'm pretty certain about that, and there's many things that we can be pretty certain about. Okay, yeah, the streets are wet now, it must be raining. We know that rain causes wet streets every time. And so that causality is pretty certain. But there's other things that we can't be as certain about, and we want to be able to assign more probabilities to things that we have insights about, rather than claiming to know. It's that sort of humility that we want to have to make progress. We want to, I pretty well know. I know that whenever I'm just thinking of trying to think of some really good examples of sort of getting a little bit more specific with something that I rely on as an insight and a method, but it's not necessarily something that I know to be true. An example was, I used to think that just from analysis that you had to shallow the edge to do a good loop, because I reasoned that, well, when you're doing a loop you're kind of going around quicker, and I know that if you shallow an edge you rotate, so I just assume, to do a loop you must shallow the edge, and I just did loops always because just from feeling I never really thought about shallowing the edge. And then I realized, Gary, you stupid idiot, you've been telling people even in seminars and stuff and in your e-learning channel 2 years ago that you have to shallow this edge to do a good loop, and that's actually not the case. And I won't teach that now, and I'll stand here before you today right now and say that no, I was wrong in that, and I should have, and I thought that was at the time knowledge, and now it's gone down to like not at all knowledge. But what if somebody tells you something that you don't really understand, but you just accept from your coach or your authority? You know, your coach doesn't know everything, and your coach can't communicate everything to you, because ultimately, as a good performer, you need to fill in the blanks. What your coach can communicate to you and suggest to you, yes, and point out to you about what they see and this and that can be very valuable data to take in and remember. But ultimately, to perform well, you have to interpolate and extrapolate. You have to go beyond and between what is communicable, as far as the flow and the timing and the feeling and yes, what happens and what you think of to make that happen are not identical sort of types of thing. Yeah, so apart from the limitations of just the relationship a coach with their protege, well, some coaches are charlatans, often inadvertently. I've been a charlatan. You know, all of us have charlatanism in us. You know, we're human beings, and sometimes we teach people and tell people with something with so much authority, and it's actually, no, it's not. Maybe it's partly true, but it's not the best way of doing things, and it's misplaced advice. This is one of the reasons why in this Gary Moves video project I have suggested, and I want to go in the direction of debate, respectful debate, because we learn more when we have somebody criticize us and when we engage in a mature adult conversation with somebody who we disagree on a point with. And then we're either going to, one person's going to be proven to be right or more right than the other, or maybe it's just a matter of opinion and we aren't going to come to an agreement, but the whole process of it and the possibility of changing our views and our insight and our knowledge on things by debate, it's the very best way of learning. But it's not so comfortable, you know. We do have this tendency more to want to agree with one another rather than to be sparring in words. But so if you want to criticize me in comments, well, somebody criticize me in the comments, because I misspeak myself often, you know. Yeah, it happens. I said Choctaw, Choctaw, Choctaw when it was actually a Choctaw, stepwide Choctaw. And somebody called me out on this, and I thanked them and said, good for you for noticing that, and I appreciate, because, you know, I want to guard against the sacred monster phenomenon too. I don't, people who they're very specialized and adept at a certain activity and have much authority on that particular, in that discipline, you know, and are revered and maybe idolized, and, you know, in that direction, even though that's idolization is excessive, but, you know, you get the idea. Those people, this is what we have to guard against as figure skaters, especially as we reach higher and higher and become more and more, let's say, famous and better known. We have to guard against the sacred monster phenomenon. Yeah, so we can have two words today, epistemology and sacred monster. The sacred monster is somebody who you know, nobody criticizes them for anything. The king goes marching through the streets naked because nobody dares criticize them. And, you know, some people have an air of not wanting to have their foibles pointed out, you know, But this is how we really stay in line, not only by checking our own behavior and becoming introspective about how we're behaving and contemplative about the grace that we're living our lives with, but also listening to, hearing, understanding, and taking to heart feedback from others. So that's probably enough for your daily mastication on the Moves News. Bye for now. I'm going skating. Cheers.